Hello, I'm Dr. Chaos. Welcome to Aliens Dark Descent. It is a real-time strategy game set within the universe of aliens, which means big, angry space bugs. As usual, with, let's face it, a lot of alien franchise stuff, we start off with humanity messing with the aliens. And while trying to ship them off world, but ultimately someone decides to let them out. Right, now introducing basically the main protagonist, Marco Hayes, Deputy Chief Administrator of the station. She is the first person to realize something's going wrong, mainly because she is basically uptight, and when something wasn't going away the system is meant to, she decides to then go check it out. So our time on Pioneer Station up here works as kind of like a tutorial, learning the way the game works. But basically Marco, we run her down to the hangar bay where the outbreak happens, and, well, come across a couple of eggs. Yeah, I have a limited understanding. Well, but when I went into the game, I had a limited understanding of the Aliens franchise, but got a lot more by the end. So, learning how to weld doors shut, Marco makes it out just in time to stop, well, to seal this alien in there. But ultimately, it goes about as well as you'd expect from any alien franchise. And, well, facehuggers go out and attack everyone. So instead, Marco decides to enact the Cerberus Protocol. Basically, make sure nothing gets in, nothing gets out, because the Bentonville, which is likely to have aliens upon it, is rapidly getting to System's Edge.
Engaging targets. It had to be done.
Unfortunately, though, turns out the alien has found us, which leads nicely into the stealth tutorial. Now, this is a great point to mention how death works. You can lose individual members in the squad, but if you lose the entire squad, you have to load back to a previous save, which we have to do here. But once we do successfully do it, we get into a cutscene where we run into the USCM Marines. The Marines are ultimately who we control through the campaign.
Come on.
Which does lead us into the continuing the tutorial, proper squad-based combat, the way it works is basically we have control of full squad. I generally stealth is better than combat. You don't want to be caught for the most part, but I do struggle a little with this throughout. Um, and sometimes guns are blazing ends up having to be what happens. Following from this, we learn about shooting, actions like suppressive fire, and shotgun blasts, as well as healing, all on the way out of the station. Because, well, aliens have acid blood, which works sometimes, but yeah. Marines can get down to 2, and you can get a ability later which makes it 1. Health point left, they take a wound, which you do have to heal up. But ultimately we make it back just in time for a crash landing with the Otago, which is the USCM ship and will be our home base for the remainder of the campaign. Following this, we have introductions with Bookard, the chief medical officer in the medbay, which is where we do all our healing. Kogan, the chief engineer, which is where we make new weapons, and Becker, who is our chief scientist, technically on loan from Weyland-Yutani, who we will use to do scientific research. Following on from that, we have our first proper deployment. Basically, select a mission, select the Marines, select the supplies. 3 of these 4 I end up using a lot throughout the rest of the campaign. McDonald I don't. So our first place of deployment is Dead Hills, a small mining settlement, more or less abandoned since the mine kind of dried up, and then the aliens made it a lot worse. So tutorials aren't over just yet. Here we learn about unlocking locked doors through terminals. C4 to destroy barricades. I was going to say elevators to move between floors, but no, we learned that in the tutorial up on Pioneer Station, but yeah, close enough. The map desk, where there is one in mostly every mission. This is used to give us more or less a decent map of the entire floor. Well, entire map, generally sometimes a couple of floors, but obviously then, you know, it gives us the general idea to where everything is. The alien nest spawn points, which is where xenomorphs can come out to wander around the level. Motion trackers, which are useful for letting you know when things are moving around. So the squad has a motion tracker on them, and there's a constant range around them, but you can put deployable motion trackers down to also light up certain areas on the map. Sound-based actions like explosions and gunshots, which do alert to nearby Xenos where we are. The APC, which our vehicle, we can tell it where to drive. It automatically shoots xenomorphs without triggering a hive hunt, and it's also where we dump survivors that we rescue. Camera feeds, which we can use to look around the map in certain approved locations. which can be used to find both xenomorph and collectible items. Creating a shelter and resting, which is the act of basically welding the door shut, which gives us an opportunity to get our stress down, and there are a few things later on which we can get extra bonuses for resting. I later on in the campaign did find I assume it's a bug, but basically if you then, once it saves after a rest, you can then reload and you can then take another rest, which did turn out useful, and I did take advantage of it a couple of times. And finally, the act of rescuing survivors. Basically, we can go tell them locate. Well, basically, tell them to follow us. Bring them back to our APC. Sorry, ARC at this point. Ready to and send them back up. There's basically 3 types of people. There's recruits, which become Marines. There's physicians slash other medical staff, which become they're used in the med bay, and engineers, which get us a little more materials each day. There's something I was going to say. Yeah, there's also this type of synths which we can repair using a tool, but they count as engineers. But yeah, we need a variety of them for a variety of different purposes. Then we get turrets, which are automated defense systems, very useful. The thing overall, pretty early on, I end up making the decision that I'm going to take advantage of the save system, because basically there's an achievement for not letting any Marines die in a campaign, and I decided I was going to get that at any cost. Also, missions can ease... Actually, I'll go over this in a sec. Luckily, the game does show up, throw up a big warning anytime a major event, like a big boss monster or a major defensive situation comes up. But yeah, after enough exploring, we make it to the slaughterhouse, where we come across Alpha.
Oh, is this a cow in
Basically, a bigger, scarier bug thing. But yeah, because they take quite a bit of punishment, but they can also be taken down somewhat easily by just setting up a couple of turrets. As long as you make sure they are taking enough damage, you don't really have to worry too much about them. Now, I made the decision to spend as much time exploring in each mission as I could. I would rather explore everything fully, take the damage, sure, but ultimately I would be surviving the entire thing. Basically to minimize the number of deployments that I had to do. Debriefs start with... So going over the Marines, you have level ups. Basically every level up gets you a attribute, which can be one of a variety of things. There's the common ones, basically these you choose. Then at level 3, which all my crew did get to level 3 at this point, you specialize in a certain class. It basically... there's 2 classes that show up, and you can pick one of them. Then at level 3, 6, and 10, you get a class-related ability. For example, here we made Webb a gunner. We used Webb in practically every mission from here on out. At this point in time, I didn't realize how useful recon can be. But I end up figuring that out in the final couple of missions of the campaign. You can also upgrade your Marines, basically spend a little bit of materials, and you can get them a basically bonus ability or something that modifies their stats or what they give. But yeah, here, like our first group, we get a gunner, a sergeant, a techer, and a medic. I try to make the techers work, but their special thing is so that they have a drone, which honestly drone isn't too useful. Oh yeah, and missions they can easily take hours to do, especially if you want to properly explore everything. But yeah, so techers, they have drones. They also can hack encrypted doors. However, you can get an ability called an attribute called Smartass, meaning that even if you aren't a techer, you can hack doors. So honestly, techers didn't become I try to use the techers a bit, but ultimately I ended up swapping the techers out for a gunner. Because honestly they worked a lot better for the way I played. While medics are to do with healing and sergeants give bonuses to command points, which is how you use a variety of abilities. Now, while on the Otago, you can get events. These you can do a variety of things, like for example, you can lose but typically it's you can lose a deployment or spend some resources to get one of a variety of kind of benefits. A lot of because I was mainly focusing on my primary team, it meant that I was shoving the rest. I was kind of ignoring the rest. Leave my primary team in the med bay, heal them up as quickly as I can. Which at this point in time I only had 2 medics, so it didn't really help too much. Well, so it took a little while at this point in time. And also later on I did get better at making sure my Marines didn't take damage, because how long they have to rest is linked to their medbay, is linked to how much damage they take. But yeah, we return to Dead Hills, and after a few collectible-based things, we go down into the mine. And we come across our first kind of, I guess, major boss. Oh no. If this shuts behind me... Oh. Oh! Which is the queen? There's a queen in in most levels, and there's an achievement for killing each queen. And honestly, killing the queens is, I'd say, advisable, because you get... yeah. So this first attempt, I end up not succeeding, because, well, I didn't have everything deployed, and I was it's going to lose everything anyway, because if a Marine gets face-hugged, that's basically a guaranteed death until later on, where you can get a thing to cure face-hugging. But our second attempt does a lot better, especially because I did actually get my turret set up this time. But yeah, every queen drops some Xeno points, which we use for research, and except for this one, I guess, because we don't have the ability to get the Xeno points just yet, and a upgrade something to research in. But yeah, kill the queen, rescue who we try to rescue people, but well, it doesn't work out. All of these guys end up dead, and but we do get the code that we were after. I think they all end up dead. One might survive. But yeah, then we escape and wrap up this mission, grabbing the last thing on the surface. Mission 2 takes us to Berkeley Stocks, which is where the crate which is filled with xenomorph eggs came from. Basically, we come here, want to find out what is going on. And for that, we have to do a bit more exploration. Now, those who have some understanding of the Alien franchise, I want to say it's the second one, but basically, you know, the xenomorph dog things. And upon seeing this, like, it's clear that we're going to have to face the runners, which are faster, but, like, more dog-like xenomorphs. But continuing into the port, we come across the next kind of class of enemy, the Cult of Darwin. Basically, these are humans who worship xenomorphs, believing them to kind of be the next stage in human evolution. Anyone who knows about xenomorphs knows that they're not. There's basically three types. There's the melee guys. Here, I think, yeah, at this point I'd gotten flamethrowers, so I'd end up using them to do some burning stuff. But flamethrowers leave a kind of fire, burning fire thing. But yeah, these guys, I'm not exactly used to them at this point. Then there are also ranged cultists. These are, gunmen. Firefights are the only purpose of well, I say the only purpose of cover. Cover can be used for two things. One, it basically makes it so gunfights go a lot smoother. The other is you can use it to hide, though hiding ends up being a little bit more of a difficult thing. But yeah, the third type we don't come across till much later in the game. I'll bring that up. Actually, I say much later. It's like, I think it might be the next mission. When we get to the second floor, this is when we come across our first runner. Faster, but more fragile compared to the more humanoid xenomorphs. They run around on all fours and, yeah, do some damage. At this point in time, I don't think I realized the ignore acid thing was specifically if you had armor. So there's a bunch of points at this point where it's like, oh, why am I taking acid damage? I do eventually realize that, though. Now, this mission, I present to you the one time I do something probably very, very, very stupid. Well, I say very stupid, but typically at this point, I let the damage happen. I let my entire team go down, or sometimes just fully take advantage of the safes coming. for some reason, this mission, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do that. So, one of our Marines gets taken down, but not killed, so we take him back to the ARC, as well as some survivors we got. And instead of going back, taking the healing, waiting a bit, I decided to go back in with 3 Marines. So after spending a good hour kind of stumbling around upstairs, it doesn't take long before we lose another Marine. But this time, instead of taking him back downstairs, and also chucking him in the car, well, like, at least he survives. Now, but there's an achievement for replacing 2 of your Marines' limbs, like a Marine getting 2 prosthetics. Basically, when they get taken down, one thing that can happen is that they just straight up die. Or they could lose a limb, like a leg or an arm, which basically and you can replace that. It's basically just a little costly, but I do get that achievement this campaign. But yeah, try to defend. But we find another civilian. The issue is they are also unconscious. So at this point I'm running on 2 Marines, and instead of picking up my stuff, leaving, I'm still trying to fight my way forward. So basically these 2 get dumped in the medical room right next to where we need to go, which leads to another good hour of attempting to clear this room. But eventually I did learn, basically, what I'm doing here, use the grenade launcher to take out the cultists before they can really alert. Which, after a hell of a defense phase in that room, which again took us a bit more time to get to, we did eventually survive all of this, which leads to us slowly carrying the 2 unconscious people out of here, and past one of the biggest Chekhov's gun moments you have ever seen. Like, honestly, the instant they went, oh yeah, look at this massive ship, I knew that we were going to encounter that at some point. Oh yeah, and I was worried the entire time that, you know, more Xenomorphs were going to show up, because at this point I only had the 2 pistols, because carrying a person means you can't use both hands. We did eventually get back to the Ark. At this point I didn't know if I need, like, you know, if I get extra trauma points for having, like, high stress. Turns out I didn't need to worry about that. But yeah, our medic is the one who kept being taken down and had to get his limbs replaced with mechanical parts. Now, we weren't done with Berkeley's docks. We had to explore the warehouses, which we end up doing, because these guys had such a time of it that this is the one time in the entire campaign I actually sent a B team in. I ended up never using a B team after this. Maori here became a kind of backup member that we did kind of keep around as a B team to swap in if needed, but apart from that we never did end up using him too much. But we spent some time sending the B team in, and we did kill a queen, luckily. Because the queen was in the storage shed. The thing was, this did also introduce us to sleeping xenomorphs. Basically, they aren't moving around, they aren't on the motion tracker, but they're there. They will wake up if you are near them too long, but apart from that, it was fine. But yeah, we killed the Queen, got back to the ship, like to the ARC, and then got on out of there. But yeah, ultimately what I decided not to use the B team was because of this, the training lab. Basically, we could, so every day a Marine wasn't on deployment, they would get an extra XP point, or 2 if they're in intensive training. My intention at this point in time was basically chuck all my extra Marines in intensive training. They would get up strong enough. In the end, I never did anything. They'd just been in intensive training till the end of the campaign. They got to level, it was 5 or 6 or something. But yeah, so we had the A team, and they were really the ones that saw combat for the most part. We also unlocked the therapy room. Basically, if you send a Marine, every time a Marine deploys, they get a trauma point. If they get 3 trauma points, they get a, trauma kind of ability, which is basically a debuff and affects them negatively. But ultimately, you could send them in here, they lose 2 trauma points a day. Thing was, eventually I got a thing on most of my A team, which made it so they lost a trauma point each day as well, meaning they'd gain 1 and lose 1. So I didn't have to worry about trauma for the campaign for the most part as well, but I did occasionally send some guys in here when needed. Which leads us into the next mission, Oldvi, basically a mining site. The Cult of Darwin use as a headquarters. This is basically also a major Xenos hotspot, but it is also where we encounter the final of the Cult of Darwin's kind of soldier types. These are the Guardians. Basically, they can run around the Xenomorphs without any without being killed, because they're keeping their so they've injected with the parasite, and they keep it cryogenically frozen, so the Xenomorphs think that they are one of them without transforming just yet, so they can still run around, do stuff for the cult and whatever. But yeah, they do work as gunmen. So, but the thing is, they weren't too bad to deal with, to be honest. But after a lot of running around like a headless chicken, we do eventually make it into the lower level of the mining facility. We do find where the cult have been basically forcing some people to be transformed. And we also learn that the cult's kind of secret plan, they call Cassandra. That's because, I'll go more into the story towards the end of the video, but yeah. We also come across the Praetorian. Basically an even bigger Xenomorph, somewhere between the more regular drones and warriors and the Queen. Unlike the others, they don't stick around in combat. They run off, they do hit and run tactics, and they don't like being shot at for too long. We still do enough to take them down easily enough, though. And these is another class 2 type Xenomorph, so basically they can randomly be summoned in, similar to how the Crushers can. But ultimately, after going back and to the Otago, we do this in the second deployment, mainly because I didn't figure out what the goal was. the first time. Um, so yeah, here we end up basically in a defensive mission. The issue was, did lose all the turrets here, which if I knew I probably would have been a little more careful about. But yeah, at this point we had started using mines. Mines, it turns out, were very useful because, you know, you could put them down and they could either blow up, you know, the xenomorphs or the cultists pretty much remotely, and it really didn't do too much. Like, they wouldn't find the team as easily. But ultimately, Marco gives up her plan to turn their last escape pod into a beacon to try to warn people, or, you know, at least get escape, and turns it into a giant bomb to basically break out the Marines that are currently trapped underground. But yeah, this does also give some... So at this point in time, the Sergeant had learned that Marco was the one who enacted the Cerberus Protocol, which is the reason that Otago crashed. And this does... Yeah, Sergeant Harper. And this does help get Marco back into Harper's good books. But yeah, at this point in time we were running 2 gunners, a medic and our sergeant. Which just leads us into the next mission, I think, I want to say 4. Basically the Xenomorphs are coming after the Otago. So what we have to do is basically set up a couple of gun turrets. We do also gain the access to the power loader, which in a couple of missions we can basically put a Marine in them, and the power basically walks around. We have to defend the power loader to set up a couple of turrets, and we also gain the ability to use Hundred's dropship to do a barrage fire. Later on in this mission we use it to destroy 2 nest entrances, but I kid you not, this is literally the only time in the entire campaign that it actually works on surface nests. But obviously you can't shoot it inside buildings, which it does suck. I wish they had that ability on surface nests in other missions. But yeah, following on from that, we are basically reached out to by Director Price, the Weyland-Yutani kind of head operator in the area, who tells us we need to just, like, shut down the protocol, otherwise, you know, the planet gets fully nuked. Which basically makes it so we return to the space station to try to shut it down. But ultimately, we run through the entire station, find a few things, find out that most people have died, or, like, basically everyone's dead, and a few were actually part of the Darwin era, only to find that a queen had moved into the room that the stealth tutorial back in the beginning with Marco. We do also have to take down a couple of synths. At this point in time, it really doesn't matter. Oh yeah. So my original. This is actually like third or fourth attempt or something. Was my original plan was to run through the, like, set up a defensive position, set up a couple of turrets, and let them break ourselves on our guns. However, I figured out that that was not going to work. Did also set up a mine to get the achievement for having the queen step on a mine, but ultimately we are slowly backing off having to deal with any of the synths that get in our way, because they are also trying to stop us, because they can't let the protocol shut down, and because the Xenos aren't a threat to the protocol, they don't really care about the Xenos, and because the synths are trying to destroy the xenomorphs, and also aren't actually organic, so can't be turned into xenomorphs. The xenomorphs are then leaving the synths alone. But yeah, ultimately we do deal with this stuff, only to find out that we can't turn off the Cerberus protocol. At this point in time, none of them were aware of stage 2 of the Cerberus protocol. But yeah, ultimately, well, actually, judging by that, it actually implies that it took too long to deactivate the Cerberus protocol, and if they got in earlier, but I don't think they would have been able to turn off it anyway. Which leads us into the next mission. We have a new task. We need to turn the Otago into strong enough to be able to get off-world and through the blockade. Well, through the Cerberus protocol blockade. So first off, we need to go to an atmospheric processor to steal its power core, which, after a small little detour where we get the APC, which allows us to take 5 Marines into mission instead of 4, it does have an extra, like, it has a plasma gun as well as the kind of Gatling gun, similar to how the ARC had. But honestly, the plasma gun, so the ARC, you could seem to have didn't have a minimum range, but the APC seems to have a minimum range. Like, the top turret can't shoot if it gets too close. So it was a little annoying. But yeah, got the APC, which allowed us to take 5 Marines into a mission instead of the 4. But ultimately it leads us to hunting another queen in the depths of the facility. Oh yeah, and at this point in time we had swapped out our high enough leveled Marines to have plasma rifles instead, which honestly were very useful. Which allowed us to grab the power core, which did depower the place, which was fine, and get back out. This ended up being our team, because at this point I realized, hey, we need to get a level 10 Marine of each class. Technically we did get it by the end of the campaign. However, because I didn't get to a point where I could actually level them up, it meant I never went back to the Otago when I got them to level 10. It means they never technically leveled up. They have the experience to. But if I ever return for New Game Plus, it will get to that point where the instant it should hopefully immediately get me those achievements. But yeah, I will not be taking a Techer. Like, if I ever do return, my plan will be Sergeant, Medic, 2 Gunners, and a Recon, because turns out Recons are very useful for taking out enemy models and units when they're alone without actually alerting them, because, sniping, with the upgrade, which allows for stealth weaponry, can just... And I only figured this out, like second to last mission or something. which honestly made things a lot smoother to go through. So, returning to Berkeley's docks, we are then going into that big spaceship we saw back in Mission 2, because we need to get its cryo chip, which will fix our own ship's cryogenic sleep things, and it'll also make it so the enemies don't have access to theirs, because they're planning on taking this ship, grabbing Cassandra, who it does turn out to be Harper's daughter, and basically get out of here, and, spread xenomorphs everywhere. So we need to stop that bio, so getting their chip. No queens on that ship, though, and after getting everything, we did go back and collect a couple of items for collection purposes, so we don't have to spend as many materials to get them back up. But yeah, it was like fighting through the ship, making it more and more obvious that they're actually talking about a person when referring to Cassandra. Which leads into, well, this. Let me guess, they just go, oh no, they were just... Wait. So the one that they said, hey, get them back, get someone back, he's jumping on the particular RC. Hell. Okay. I might edit this.
Marines!
Shit! Where the hell did he come from?
Shoot him! Shoot him now!
I carry a message for the father.
Harper!
There you are, Cassandra's father. Oh, I am so honored to be in your presence. Marlowe wants you to know that the father of the voice has a place
Yeah, so this is the dude
amongst
that...
us.
Take him to the containment cell. I said take him.
I love how chill he is. He's just like, yeah, cool.
Have a nice...
Everything I suspected about the device, it's true. Marlowe's found a way to suspend the gestation process, and yet your prisoner is recognized as part of the Hive. Sure, I suspect he has no direct control over these creatures,
Shut
but...
up, Doc. All right, friend. You'd better start talking now, because that red button is getting real compelling.
I don't talk. I only listen.
To what?
Her voice. Cassandra's voice.
Don't you fucking say her name!
Why? Her name is sacred. Her name is the key.
You mother...
The key?
Yes, Cassandra has opened our minds to the Hive. Through her voice, we understand their purpose. With her guidance, we feel what they feel. By her teachings, we reach a new stage of evolution.
Where is she?
Where it all began, of course. With the Maker. With Marlowe.
I need to talk with Price.
Becker, keep an eye on him. Harper, wait. I'm sure she has the situation under control.
Here! Of all places! What a blessing! Ah!
Oh no.
Fascinating. Really fascinating.
So yeah, we did find a data pad on the ship, basically, which was Marlowe telling, Marlowe, who's technically the big bad, the one behind the Cult of Dawn, or Cult of Darwin, whatever, basically telling one of his followers, hey, go back, tell, the father, so, you know, Sergeant Harper, basically, hey, join us, we'll give you back your daughter if you do. But ultimately that just kind of settles his conviction, hey, we need to deal with the Cult of Dawn. Darwin. I meant the Cult of Darwin. Which leads us into our next mission. Basically, this is where Cassandra is meant to be held. Basically a super secret Weyland-Yutani research lab, but it turns out they were experimenting on her long before the outbreak happened. We eventually made it down into the lab. Basically, so, rooms 1, 2, 3, and 5 have different xenomorphs within them. Room 4 is where there is, a mercenary, I think his name was like Stern or something, who was working for Weyland-Yutani, but ultimately realizes, hey, these guys suck, mainly because everyone he ever known was killed in this, because, you know, she does, because Price doesn't tell anyone anything. And then we have Room 6. Room 6 is clearly where Cassandra was held when she was kept here and experimented on. There's mentions of, you know, her connection to the Hive and how she can read them. There's her wanting revenge, and then there's also her begging for her dad to come rescue her. But yeah, he does come, like, he didn't realize what she was going through. You know, he went, joined the Marines, got off the planet. Didn't realize, like, and he wasn't on great speaking terms with her. But he does come back. But he, you know, part of the reason came back to Leith was for her, because everything was going to shit. You know, and to rescue his daughter, which does happen, by the way. Not everything is shit in this universe. But yeah, so we kill another queen. This one goes a lot easier. On our way through, we find where they were experimenting on Cassandra, even finding one of the recording logs of it. Basically, you know, Marlowe going on and on about how, you know, his xenomorphs are the future of humanity kind of bullshit. He clearly didn't care too much. He viewed Cassandra as a tool, a resource.
Inelegant, obsolete body. But I need you.
Blatantly ignoring Cassandra's pleas to stop, to let her go.
This will help you rest. I know it can't be easy.
Sadly, we weren't in time to get her just yet,
Yes.
but
Sleep.
we do get
Your
Marlowe
namesake was forever ignored.
just in time for the lab's self-destruct sequence to be enacted, which, as it turns out, it is likely that this is Price's doing. Basically, Price was funding everything all along, and now that she had the info from the lab, she hoped to take out all her kind of enemies in one fell swoop.
Where's my daughter?
Oh, I had nothing to do with the laboratory's destruction. I'm afraid you'll have to
But,
ask
as it turns out,
Director Price.
What the hell are you talking
this isn't even the real Marlowe.
Your mission was to
He's a
secure the
synth.
data
In
Project
fact, as we
Cassandra.
find out,
Access it herself.
Marlowe really liked using synths, as there was so many Marlowe synths we come across, especially in the final mission of the game.
The data she wanted.
That fucking woman. And my daughter? Is she expendable too?
Not to me. Her gift makes all of this possible.
Where is she?
I can't tell you.
He's alive, don't worry. The next mission, basically, Booker's been growing a xenomorph, and as now it's escaped and is running around the ship. Both the Dr. Bookard, so the Dr. Bookard, the scientist Booker, and like they both get killed. For the most part, this is a stealth mission. Avoid the xenomorphs, avoid the Weyland-Yutani commanders who came to take the ship. Ultimately, though, we get to the ARC and just destroy them all. But Booker has a evil villain monologue, only to be cut short by the xenomorph. Which we do barely get killed, and honestly, Marco is very proud of herself with this, and does gloat a little, but yeah, Harper's injured. He is basically out for the count in a kind of coma for the rest of the campaign, with Stern kind of taking his spot in the ARC, well, now APC. So now we attack Pharos Spire. Basically, we need to get there, find out what Price knows. The entire lower city is being taken over by xenomorphs. There is a queen here that we do take out. There are also the Weyland-Yutani commandos, who we do have to take out, but they are also against us. But luckily the xenomorphs and the Weyland-Yutani commandos do fight amongst each other. So we do let the xenomorphs kill the Weyland-Yutani commanders when we can, and even let the xenomorphs break into into Pharos Spire to help us fight our way up to the top. Which eventually, well, we get Margot Hayes up, give her a routine, and we basically tell her to go fuck herself, that she's no better than a synth, and get the info we need.
Listen to me.
So we leave Price screaming, begging,
I'm not a synth.
as the xenomorphs climb up the tower. Which it does lead us into basically the final mission. Technically mission 11. This is the last time we have control of our actual Marine team, though. We did return to Pharos Spire to try to find the last data pad we had there. Ultimately, though, we did miss a data pad somewhere. I don't know where, so we didn't get the achievement, which really annoys me. But I'm not going to go back and look through everything. So yeah, returning to the mine, we have to go even deeper, go straight into the basement, to find Cassandra, rescue everyone we can, and get out. But as it turns out, there's a massive xenomorph city down there. But yeah, so we eventually get our way through, defend the landing pad deep within this facility, because we need to go find Cassandra, who's still even deeper. Marco was willing to go in alone, but she ends up having Stern and the other sergeant that I never got the name of.
This whole place is about to get nuked off the face of the
We
planet.
have like a
So I guess I'll
they go along with her. Yeah, Martinez, that's the other dude's name.
But we're coming.
To basically go even deep within the facility and find, you know, Cassandra and Marlowe. But ultimately, it turns out that Marlowe's been dead for a while at least. That every Marlowe we've come across, like that the Marlowe we've come across, obviously was a synth. He wasn't the only one. There's at least like 30 of them down here. And I do take out as many Marlows as I can until there's a point where it's like, yeah, you aren't allowed to kill any more Marlows. We come across a bunch of like bigger bugs, like bigger skeletons, which have clearly had their own xenomorph chest bursters. But we do find Cassandra. We do rescue her, get that helmet off, get the collars off, and it's basically, hey, we need to go. But funnily enough, Xenomorph City, who would have thought it? But it is kind of filled with xenomorphs. But yeah, both Martinez and Stern do die here.
Guys,
because, well, there's a massive one. I've seen it referred to as the Titan in, on the Aliens Dark Descent Reddit. But there's no, like, file in the codex about this. Ultimately, though, you know, it's a run from it. Run, get away. Good, which we don't have a choice. Which honestly wasn't too bad, because it's basically... Because we didn't have a max limit on how many... It doesn't have a jaw, it has... Like, on command points, so we could just be constantly shotgun blasting and, grenading it. Which, while it didn't do any... doesn't seem to do any damage... It does knock it back, and we basically do this all the way out.
Stay close to me, Cassandra.
But yeah, escape the city again, but ultimately, Harper ends up using the last of his strength to psychically throw this thing off a ledge. He does die from this.
Dad, no! Let's get out of here.
But yeah, it's cutscene from here on out. Okay, not throw it off ledge, but does enough to stop it killing them. But yeah. They get out. Hunslet does some very fast, very close flying. Oh yeah, one thing I will say. So, it plays the last mission on the actual day of the nuclear bombings.
We had like 7 days till the nuclear.
Even though that, you know, I had like a week to 10 days left before it was meant to occur. But yeah, it's cooler that way, I guess. And unfortunately, it appears that Sergeant Harper has died, and basically now it's time. Everyone gets in their cryopods and, you know, flies off out of here, gets past the blockade. So, the general thing was Harper and his daughter both had psychic abilities, which meant they were kind of connected to the hive, which made Marlowe very interested, as well as the Wailing Yutani in the area. Was, you know, they were the ones ultimately behind it. They were funding Marlowe. They were the ones running all this. They were the ones who gave the go-ahead. So now these guys are getting on out, and yeah. Ultimately, I did enjoy the game for the most part. I know I need to do a New Game Plus run to get everything, get the achievements I didn't do, but, you know, need to do it on a hardest difficulty, get some other collectibles and stuff. And yeah, not much else, honestly. Well, so just a few things. I am impressed I got this down from like 25 hours of footage to just over an hour. Don't know what I'm going to play next. Make sure you like, subscribe, do whatever. The raw footage will be coming out over the next few days anyway. Yeah, the raw footage will be coming out over the next few days. I don't know what I'll do next. Honestly, it's up. This is an internal, like, thing that I'll make the decision on. It's up between Rise, Son of Rome, or it's like Mankind, Humankind Odyssey or something like that. It's the monkey game, Monkey Evolution game. I'll make that decision when it comes down to it, though. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.